Hello and welcome back. In this lesson I'm going to show you how to paint these colourful winter woolly hats in watercolour. This is a simple illustrative style of painting that anyone can paint in just a few minutes. But there are a few different techniques and tips that I'll share with you during the painting process. Follow along to find out how I painted these fun winter hats and so you can try it for yourself. I started by sketching a few different ideas for the hats in pencil on an ordinary sheet of drawing paper. When I was happy, I traced them onto a sheet of watercolour paper. I did this because the drawing process often involves numerous corrections and repeated erasing on watercolour paper can damage the surface. You can copy the design I did for this painting, or if you prefer, you can download my outline sketch from my Patreon, where you'll also find a bunch of bonus material. I'll leave a link in the description below. Tape down your watercolour paper onto a flat board, then use some masking fluid to mask the white parts on all of the hats. To do this, I'm using a fine nylon brush that I dip first into soapy water before picking up some liquid masking. This helps prevent the brush from getting clogged up with dried masking. When you've painted all the details you want to leave white, let the masking fluid dry completely. Begin by painting the main body of each hat one at a time, changing the colours as you go. Feel free to copy the colour scheme I'm using or come up with your own ideas. However, notice I'm painting these shapes with a gradient in strength from light to dark. This helps create a slight 3D effect, as if the hats were lit from the left hand side. To do this, start with a diluted mixture of paint, then charge your brush with a more concentrated colour as you progress. You can also lift some of the colour off the paper while the paint is still damp, using a rinsed and blotted brush. I painted each of the hat shapes using the same method, but for the sake of creating a bit of diversity, I reversed the gradient for the bottom row of hats, making them lighter on the right and darker on the left. Finish off the bottom row, then leave the paint to dry. Normally, by the time you've painted the last watercolour hat, the first one should be dry. If it is, you can keep painting, otherwise let it dry before moving on. This is because if you paint next to a damp wash, you risk causing watermarks like backruns or blooms if the new brush marks touch the damp paint. Now I'm painting the brims at the bottom and the bubbles at the crown of each hat. Again, you can follow my colour scheme or make up your own ideas. For some of the details, like the spikes on a couple of the bubbles, I switch brushes to a small round brush. I'll let you watch the painting process while I finish this part of the painting. In retrospect, when I'd finished painting the bubbles for the red and green woolly hats in the centre, I wish I'd inversed the colours of the bubbles, putting a green bubble on the red hat and vice versa. I think this would have produced a better colour contrast. All that's left is to paint the smaller details, but before moving on I removed the masking fluid using a rubber cement pickup tool. Just make sure the paint is completely dry when you do this or you'll smudge the paint. Once again I swapped over to a small fine brush for adding the final texture details. I'll let you watch the rest of the painting process where you can see me adding zigzag lines and crisscross details to the different types of hats. And here's the finished painting. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my YouTube channel. The full-length video for this painting can be found on my Patreon. As always, let me know your comments below, and if you'd like to follow along with another one of my paintings, you might want to watch this video next.